Hi, I'm Emerson Campbell.
I'm Nicholas Reed.
I'm Taylor Reed. With us today is Travis Does. Travis Does, K-State fan, you could say. Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. So what we got coming up is we got Oklahoma at Kansas State tomorrow on Fox at 2:30 p.m. Fellas, the last couple of years didn't go Oklahoma's way.
Not as planned, by any means.
Not at all. Not at all. First off, I'll start with Doze. What are you thinking about the game? Just first thoughts.
First thoughts, this is going to be a close game to call. I don't, being an honest K-State fan and looking at it objectively, it could go either way. I don't think this is going to turn into a shootout between the two offenses. I think this is going to be, we'll see how OU's defense and K-State's defenses measure up. Both of them have good defenses.
That's their strengths.
I would give, I think the point spread is going to be a touchdown to a field goal between the two of them like it was in 2019 and 2020.
I'd agree 100%.
Yeah. Emerson. Might be a little frozen up right there. Maybe? Okay. Nick,
Yes. I'm here.
Oh, are we having some technical difficulties? Maybe?
Internet just sucks.
Anyway, Nick.
I hear you.
I do want to
What
say.
do you want to see?
Well, let's say this first, okay? This is the first true road game for Oklahoma since 2019. November 30th, 2019, with fans in the stands. And I think it might be a rude awakening knowing that Oklahoma and Texas have announced they're going to the SEC.
Yeah.
It's going to be a rough crowd.
You know Manhattan's going to be rocking because they hate Oklahoma.
They
They're
will
going
be
to SEC.
rocking.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Kleiman is 2-0 versus Lincoln Riley, which is also key.
He
But-
did coach. Where did he coach up before this? North Dakota State?
Kleiman was at North Dakota State.
Okay.
And while he was there, he has 4 national titles under his belt before coming to K-State.
There you go.
He's got a good track record,
Yeah,
definitely.
he does. I don't know. That's still messing up on the video side. Like I said, 2:30. It's going to be rocking. What are you looking to see, Nick?
You know, I think Oklahoma needs to get Coney Brooks in the game early, and they need to establish the run game, and they need to pound the rock. You know, open up the game 100%. But for me, I think Eric Gray is the type of back. Get him in shotgun formation, run some screens with him. I'd like to see that. But focus on the run game this week and play good defense.
So I honestly think, I was thinking earlier, I think it's really going to come down to K-State's D and Oklahoma's offense. You really look at it. I think that's where it's going to come down to. Because Oklahoma's defense has struggled. What's K-State's defense going to do to Oklahoma? Because I'm going to tell you what, this game coming up Saturday is not going to be West Virginia. You don't have the home crowd on your side. You got a hostile K-State crowd.
And they're going to have to, they're playing at Bill Snyder Famliy Stadium, so they've got to contend with K-State. That is a loud stadium.
And they're going to be packed. It's going to be packed.
And they can, they get out there and they get the fans to start raising the volume, and you throw in several hundred drunk college kids out there, and you got the Wabash Cannonball going balls out from the band. So yeah, there's a lot there that they can contend with. As far as strictly looking, if you take all of that out of the equation, K-State's defense, from what I could find, and the internet, everything's true on the internet, and it varies. So they're ranked 6th in the rush defense. They're allowing 54.7 yards in their rush game. If you go back to the Oklahoma State game that they lost last week, that was several blunders on the offense. But their secondary was struggling a bit with some of the passes. Oklahoma State was able to throw on them fairly decently, and some runs. The other thing is K-State's ninth in sacks. They were averaging 4 sacks a game. You've got some real studs on that defense. Daniel Green, Reggie Stubblefield, and Nate Matlack. Green at his linebacker position can be devastating against the run, especially if they're trying to get out in the flat or they're getting outside. They just get hammered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, last week against Oklahoma State, it seemed like K-State kind of struggled early, but they made it a close game. But they also were missing Skylar Thompson. And I think that was kind of a big issue for him, too.
And so they say that Skylar Thompson is questionable. That's what I heard last. Okay. If I was K-State, I wouldn't even come out and say it. I'd let Oklahoma figure it out at game time.
Right, and that
Why
might
not?
exactly what they're doing.
You know, that's what you got to do. You know,
I haven't seen that he's going to return, and it's unlikely that he'll return in this tomorrow's game.
I mean, either way, you're either going to have Skylar Thompson or you're going to have their third string quarterback.
You could have Will Howard. He was the backup quarterback, played last year for quite a bit for K-State when Thompson went out with an injury. The second game of this year when Thompson went out, Will Howard took over. But they've also platooned in Jaron Lewis. That guy, he can throw the ball. Will Howard can throw. I just haven't seen a lot.
He's pretty mobile though.
But he is pretty wiry, and if he gets an opening, he's going to scoot down the field.
Yeah, he's a big guy. I think he's 6'5", 235, sophomore.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I see this game stressing me out for a fourth straight week. I see this, like Doze was saying, I see this being a one-possession game.
Yeah,
A
there's
field
going
goal
to be
game.
very limited possessions in this game.
6 points, because K-State, as you've seen every single year, right there, 2019, 2020, K-State has the formula to beat Oklahoma every year.
Kleiman's a hell of a coach.
Yes, what they do is they get the ball and they take their time with the ball and they drive down the field. And that's what West Virginia did to Oklahoma. K-State has the ingredients to do it. Are they going to do it a third straight year?
And K-State, that's one thing Oklahoma, K-State is a run-heavy offense. Their first 3 games that they won, they did without a passing touchdown. It was all by rushes. And Deuce Vaughn is he's an incredible athlete to be playing at this level. But I believe his name is Irvin. Double check on that.
Doing the fact checking.
Yeah, so yes, it is Jay Irvin. That guy's no slouch. He can run the ball just as good as Deuce Vaughn can. So it's not like they have one back to key on. If Irvin has the ball, he's going to move down the field too.
Yeah, and I think that's the key for Oklahoma. Force Kansas State to throw the ball and beat you throwing it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, Nick, what specific matchup are you looking for this Saturday? Are you focusing more on the K-State Oklahoma offense or the Oklahoma defense, K-State offense? What are you looking at?
I'm going Oklahoma's O-line versus Kansas State's D-line. I think that's probably going to be where it's at. It's going to start in the trenches, yeah.
It's the trenches and the play calling. If Oklahoma can establish the run and first of all call the run, make a
Call
run
it.
play.
Run the ball on first down.
and they
I've
can
said that so many times on this podcast, so many times.
Nick, I have the most temper issues, I think, out of me and him, clearly. And Nick's been the most pissed off during the Oklahoma games over me. He gets pretty mad. I get mad too. But if they can establish that, though, if they can honestly establish that run, and they can set up the run, and they can set up the play action pass, and that offense at least gets to clicking just a little bit.
That's why I say start Kennedy Brooks on the first possession.
Yeah.
Open it up, and Kennedy Brooks, he's going to average, 4 yards a carry. He will. But you got to set it up. You got to let him play his game because they have not been doing that throughout this whole season.
At all.
Eric Gray starts, and he's very talented, but
Yeah.
you get the big bruiser back in there. That's what I think. For this offense, I think he should be the starter.
And we talk about all of this, what Oklahoma needs to set up, but it just goes back to what you said earlier. They're playing in a packed house that is 100% against them.
100%. Especially when you say, oh, we're too good for this conference, we're going to the SEC.
Exactly.
There's going to be a lot of people coming for your throat.
This game is not at 11 o'clock. This game is at 2:30.
Yeah.
At 2:30. It's late in the evening. Nobody has anything to do during the day. They get all their stuff done. They're going to the game.
A lot of drunk students.
A lot of drunks.
Exactly. Overall, Oklahoma owns the series 76-4-21. That doesn't mean anything. I last checked when we were kind of doing a little bit of research before this. ESPN was showing Oklahoma an 11.5-point favorite. He was saying earlier that it kind of varies differently.
Varies website to website. I've seen, and it really depends on what analyst is looking at it. It can vary anywhere from a touchdown in K-State's favor to a touchdown field goal K-State's favor, or the vice versa with Oklahoma.
Emerson, can you hear us? Maybe?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Can you jack him up a little bit? We can hear you, Emerson. Can you hear us?
Yes,
All right.
I hear you.
So, what are you looking for? You haven't been in the conversation much. So a little bit of technical difficulties. What are you looking forward to most this Saturday?
Yeah, I think the most interesting matchup will be when Oklahoma is on offense and Kansas State's on defense. It's interesting with K-State because they've changed to a three-man defensive front, and so that'll be interesting to see how Oklahoma responds and runs the ball. You would think that the offensive line would be able to run the ball more effectively and set up better run blocking for Kennedy Brooks with the three-man front, but at the same time, it seems like a lot of the communication has been the problem with Oklahoma's offensive line for the entirety of the season. And with a three-man front, yeah, you're not going to have as many people rushing the backer or rushing the quarterback on any given down. But at the same time, it gives you a lot more versatility as far as blitzing linebackers and things like that. So if the offensive line can't get their communications right and pick up the blitz wherever it's coming from and keep their head on a swivel, then it's going to be a tough day for Spencer Rattler. Another thing to look at, if you watch the Oklahoma State game, going back to what Nick said about setting up the run, that'll be huge if Oklahoma can set up the run, because that will allow the screen game to develop even further. And if you can get Kennedy Brooks going early and then you swap it out for Eric Gray and you slip him, you get him the ball on a slip screen or something like that. That was what K-State struggled with last week against Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State had two huge gains of like over 40 yards on screen.
Yeah, it was the first possession of that
That'll
game.
be one way to exploit K-State's defense. Yeah. So that'll be something to look at, and then also just, with dropping 8, it's going to be imperative that Spencer Rattler makes smart decisions and he's accurate with the football and fitting it into those tight windows with 8 men dropping back.
And even, you look back at the Baker Mayfield years, when we went to Manhattan with Baker Mayfield, that was an uphill battle that whole game. And we had Baker Mayfield. So,
And the best offense in the nation.
Yes.
By far. The most talent.
Yeah.
On an
Absolutely.
offense, on a team.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And to Emerson's point, he was talking about this three-man down defensive line. Kleiman and his defensive coordinator has worked on this since the end of the 2020 season to change that K-State defense, and they went to a 3-3-5 and consulted several different people on it. And as I understand it, it's one that's more commonly run in the NFL, and it allows your D-backs to concentrate more on chasing down that ball, and you can hide a blitz coming from any direction that may not be picked up and causes a little bit of confusion for your offensive line.
Yeah.
So that'll be something for OU to adjust to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's so many ways you can come from in a 3-3-5 like that. Even if you're running the ball, you can still, get maybe a yard gain, maybe even a loss. Like, I know Iowa State ran that heavy when we played them. But it's going to be interesting. I really do think it's going to come down to the O-line and seeing if Oklahoma can get a run game established. But K-State also has some dudes, On a kickoff return, it was Malik Knowles who took it to the house.
We just watched that a little bit ago.
Number 4.
Yeah.
He was moving like a CD Lamb, and he's got speed, and he can move in open space. He looks good. Obviously, Deuce Vaughn's a threat. He tore us up last year. He's really shifty, very fast. You can't see him under that offensive line. Very talented. It's a good team, good head coach. So Oklahoma's got to really prove themselves this week.
Yeah. This is going to be the best coach team they've played so far.
And to the point of the kickoff, K-State has one of the best special teams out there, and people at home, we check this. It's either 17 of the last 18 or it's 16 of the last 17 seasons. K-State has either returned a punt or a kickoff for a touchdown. They average about 34 yards per return on special teams.
I mean, you look at it, what Darren Sproles going through there, Tyler Lockett going through there. They've had a lot of guys that can win the game just in special teams, and they do a really good job in taking 2 to 3 star recruits and making them look like 4 or 5 star guys. They really know how to adjust and coach their guys and groom them really well.
And that could, like we were saying, how, most of us think this might be a one-possession game. It could come down to special teams, fellas. It could come down to special teams.
That's a really good point that you bring up, too, because that is very likely. Oklahoma's been very fortunate in these past weeks with special teams when it comes to kicking field goals.
Yeah.
But when's that magic potion gonna fade off?
When's it gonna run out?
Right.
There he is. Is that better? Still hear us?
So that's a great point that you bring up with special teams. I saw a stat on ESPN the other night, and I think since like 2005, they showed the top 4 most kick returns or punt returns in college football, and K-State was number 1 with like 56, and the next highest team was like Alabama or something with like 30. So, I mean, K-State over the last 15 years has been a machine in the kick return game, and I think that's just a statement to the discipline that this team plays with, and I think that discipline is the reason why they've been so successful against Oklahoma in the last couple seasons. Yeah, they don't necessarily have the athletes that Oklahoma does because of recruiting, but they're a disciplined team, and like you said, Taylor, if it comes down to special teams, I mean, the last two years in a row, it's came down to an onside kick for Oklahoma, and they couldn't get it because K-State was better in special teams, and so you need to keep that in mind, and it's really going to be about, I think, especially in the special teams aspect of the game, the discipline that Oklahoma plays with, and preventing K-State from taking advantage and maybe getting
But
a special teams.
When is this Oklahoma offense finally gonna figure it out?
Dude, I don't know.
That's kind of the question this season so far. Like, if they can't figure it out this week, I really don't see them figuring it out against Texas. Texas is the second most highest rated roster in the Big 12, and they're gonna be coming to play. So if you can't figure it out this week, when are you really gonna get it down?
They're too overconfident.
There's so many factors. Play calling,
We
O-line.
We go from scoring 40, 50 points a game to last week we won the game with 16 points. Oklahoma did not lead in that game at all. At all. They kicked a field goal and won. And they won. So I don't know. I don't know if this offense has to have their backs up against the wall because, we did kind of see last week that last drive, the offense did have their backs up against the wall. I go back to the 2 drives they had in the second half. The first drive was right after halftime. They had their backs up against the wall. The second drive, they had their backs up against the wall on the very last drive of the game. And both of those drives, they scored. They scored field goals, okay, whatever. They still scored. But does this offense need to have their backs against the wall and have that feeling all year to do something? Or are they going to be one of those Oklahoma teams where it takes a catastrophic loss to reboot the team and start playing ball? I don't know.
With the expectations that this team has,
It's different.
it is different, but I don't think it should take that.
It
I think they've been in too many close games to have that excuse that it takes a loss to reboot this team. I could see it because they do it every single year, and I could see them clicking after a loss, but
it shouldn't take that because this year's different than most years. This year's they were stacked. They are stacked everywhere. They are stacked everywhere, and they started at 2, and they're now at 6. They're 4-0.
Well,
Everybody's.
Here's the thing: West Virginia shot themselves in the foot late in that game, and we won because of that mistake. I'm gonna tell you right now, it was because of that snap that goes over the quarterback's head. They shoot themselves in the foot. We end up kicking a field goal, winning the game.
And they beat Nebraska because they had how many penalties and a.
Well, they missed 2 field goals, and we blocked a PAT and took it to the house. We win 23-16.
Yeah. So, with that being said, Emerson, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask all 3 of you guys kind of to close this up a bit, and you guys can elaborate as much as you want. Emerson, what are you looking for this game, and what's the score going to be?
I'm looking at the offense when they're going against K-State's defense. I think Oklahoma's defense is. I mean, they're gonna play well. I think. But this is the thing. Like I said last week, when your defense is the strength of your team, like it clearly is with Oklahoma this year, you're going to be in a lot more closely contested games. And I think for the offense, they need to capitalize on every possession because, like you guys talked about, K-State is going to try and limit possessions that Oklahoma gets, as they should. And if Oklahoma can't keep Spencer Rattler clean, if they can't pick up the blitz, if they can't communicate on the offensive line, if the receivers can't get separation and Spencer Rattler can't make smart reads and take what the defense gives him, then Oklahoma's going to be in for a long day. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for the most. I'm not going to predict Oklahoma scoring over 30 like I did last week. I'm going to go Oklahoma 23, K-State 21. And I think Oklahoma, similar fashion to last week, they'll probably get that walk-off field goal to win it. That's how close I think it's going to be.
Does Spencer Rattler throw any interceptions?
He'll probably have 1 interception, I would say. I'd bet 1.
Okay. All right. Doze, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at, this could, I'm going to say go State here, but it's going to be either it's going to be come down to a touchdown or a field goal in K-State's favor. That's provided that K-State quarterback, whichever one decides to start, doesn't have a case of the Edward fumble hands, kick a ball into the end zone and let the defense score, and they click on all 8 cylinders. I think OU defense-wise are in for a long day, whether they win or not, because Kleiman's coaching methods, he is a ground and pound, beat the piss out of the opponent in the run game. They're a run-heavy team.
We've seen that the last 2 years. Lincoln Riley's 0-2 against him, by the way. Hasn't won. Hasn't beat him.
And I mean, that's one of my keys.
I'm glad you talk about K-State's running game because with Oklahoma's linebackers, I think the linebackers have been the weakness of the defense so far this season, and they've showed time and time again that they can't get into run fits properly and they can't cover running backs out of the backfield. So with Deuce Vaughn, and like you said, how K-State loves to pound the ball, if Oklahoma's linebackers are having trouble getting into those run fits, then yeah, K-State will have a great day running the ball and be very effective.
And
And
if,
then
you know,
that'll set up Deuce Vaughn for huge gains.
more
on
to
the play.
that point, if you know that it is Will Howard that starts the game, you have Will Howard, Deuce Vaughn, and Irvin. I believe his name is Joe Irvin. Those three guys can scoot the ball down the field given the opportunity in an open hole, and it doesn't take much for those three to do it. So Oklahoma's going to have to look at, you got three guys that can run the ball very well, and along with Malik Knowles, if it's a pitch option, and that guy can run.
What's the score going to be?
I'm going to say this is going to be probably a 28-21 favor of K-State if it gets that high.
Okay. Nick.
Just to go off Emerson Doze's point here, one of the keys for me was shutting down the run game for Kansas State. That's what they're gonna do. Oklahoma should know that that's what they're gonna do. It's going to come down to Oklahoma's D-line and Kansas State's D-line ultimately. So shut down the run game if you're Oklahoma. Make them beat you passing. Shut down Deuce Vaughn and Will Howard. Also, I want to see more explosive plays from Oklahoma. I want to see them establish the run first and then start to chip at the explosive plays. That's what we haven't seen this season. But I still expect this game to be tight. And I'm going to go with Oklahoma 27-24.
27-24.
Yeah.
Does Oklahoma defense get any turnovers?
I'm going to say they get one. I'm not going to say Oklahoma's going to capitalize on it, but I'm going to say they're going to get one. But I think if they want to win the game, they have to capitalize on each and every possession they get.
Absolutely. I'm kind of torn on this one here. Like I said earlier, and we've been saying the whole time, I really think it's going to come down to Kansas State's defense and Oklahoma's offense. I really think this is going to be a defensively fought game. Hostile crowd in Manhattan. Oklahoma 0-2 against K-State last 2 years. Lincoln Riley hasn't beaten this coach ever. K-State's had their number. I'm going to go OU on this one, though. And I'm going to take OU in a very sloppy win. I'm going to say Spencer Radler throws a pick. I'm going to say maybe we have another turnover, but I'm also thinking that K-State has a few turnovers too. I'm going to go 26-21. 26-21 Oklahoma. That's what I'm thinking.
I think if Oklahoma has more turnovers than Kansas State in this game, we're going to lose.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Whoever has the most turnovers is going to lose. And, I mean, that's obvious in most games, but not all games,
Right.
You look at the West Virginia-Maryland game. West Virginia had 4 freaking turnovers and lost by a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, So, yeah, absolutely. That's what I got. Emerson, do you have anything before we wrap it up? Any closing statements? Any final thoughts?
I'm just going to say that this is our second of 2 trap games. Obviously, before Texas, I picked West Virginia and K-State as the games to circle for obvious reasons with K-State and our recent history against them. I don't think Will Howard is going to start. I think Kleiman is, there's no incentive to him being honest, and there's no strategic advantage to him coming out and saying that Skylar Thompson's going to start. So Oklahoma needs to be prepared for that. And also at the same time, like if you look at the Oklahoma State game last week against with K-State, that was a close game, and then Will Howard fumbles the snap on the 2-yard line, and Oklahoma State goes in. And they score off that, and that completely changed the momentum of the game. K-State doesn't make those terrible plays against Oklahoma. For some reason, every year they're locked in, they're dialed in against Oklahoma. So it's just going to come down to discipline, and that's all I have.
Doze?
I I think he's right. As long as K-State, whichever quarterback starts and that offense has their shit together, it ought to be a pretty decent game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quarterback for committee for Kansas State, but I do expect Will Howard to get the start, and I think they're going to come in run heavy. So we'll see how it goes.
There you go. Kyle Reed.
21-24 Oklahoma, and it's a low score because both teams are going to work their ass off to punish each other. And it's always been that way for the last 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely.
So each one of them guys ain't going to give up. It's going to be nothing but tooth and nail. So
There we go. And as much, final thought here for me, as much as, I talk all the shit on K-State, I respect the crap out of them.
well,
I
hell
really
yeah.
do. I really respect the crap out of them. Probably more than most of the teams we're playing this year. So we'll see how it goes. So at the end of the day, that's Emerson. This is Nick. Special thanks to Travis Doe's coming on our show.
Thank you for having me.
There we go. We appreciate it.
Go State.
Boomer.
Hi, I'm Adam Murphy, director and producer of Sooner Saloon.
My name's Gabe Joyner. I'm the motherfucking sound guy.
And we would like to thank you for watching and want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe if you like our videos.
Go. Smash that like button. Destroy that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? Go out there, kill it.
Cheers to that, bud.
Destroy. Subscribe. Destroy the like button.